But if we're going to be talking about the science is just not there to say that this is addictive in any way.
Yeah. Do you attribute any of your growth on OF to the taking on red pill content creators and trying to slay them?
Yes.
You do?
It's hard, but every time I do a show, I obviously get a huge influx. Like Fresh and Fit is a big one. I mean, I think their audience, I think they are the only, because a lot of brands don't work with only people, so you guys become our sponsors.
Interesting.
You guys become our advertisers.
I went viral for saying the same thing. We had Stephanie Palomares went on with me, and I've never seen a woman get dunked on harder. It wasn't like you two would have dunked on her. Like she was saying crazy. And I'm friends with her, but she was saying some nutty stuff, and I hit her up the next day. I was like, "How many more subs you have?" She goes, "I got 1,200 subs."
Oh yeah,
I got 1,200 new subs in 24 hours.
Yeah, and then it's not just the subs, because then like all of us usually have like a welcome message. You can unlock that for like $40, and then it just adds up, and then that content is still out there. It's still getting views. Sometimes like I think, oh yeah, I got my like little influx from Fresh and Fit, and then another clip will like come from that and go viral, and then more people will find you. I literally go live on Only, and I have like people in my live comments be like, Mary Kill, Myron, like they're like your guys' fans. Like. So
one of the funny things that there's guys right now. There's a Reddit article saying that I'm 5'6". There's a bunch of articles saying that I was never in the military, all this kind of stuff. And then there's a guy who like makes videos about me every week, just trashing me or whatever. None of it's true, but every time he does it, I get my sales team hits me up. He goes, "Oh, hey man, you remember that crazy video that was saying that you were lying about your military service?" It's like we got like 5 new clients from that. Yeah. And it was one of the crazy things. It was also Grant Cardone, who was like, we started making the most money when we got the most hate.
Yeah, no, I actually get really sad if that's like when I post something sexy and all the comments are nice, I get really upset, because honestly, the best engagement, and that's another thing, even the red pillars or the people that watch that don't come to OF, they help your engagement because they're writing hate comments on every single thing I post or every single thing I do, which just tells the algorithm I'm interesting. Okay. So they're like our free interns.
I'm definitely different from all the other content creators. I'm totally morally ambiguous to any of this. I don't care what you guys do. The difference for me is like, I do try to look at this from more of like a socioeconomic standpoint of like what could do to people, helpful or hurtful. You guys don't think people need to watch. Somebody didn't want to watch, and you wouldn't have a problem with it, right?
No, I think she definitely wouldn't have a problem.
Would you?
Have a problem with people
like when they say no fap and they don't want. I had Austin Dunham on, so I had FitX Fearless and Austin Dunham. They're both Miami content creators, and FitX Fearless is like, I have completely stopped with any pornography or masturbation whatsoever, and it's made my brain clear, and it's really helped me. And then I listen to Austin Dunham, and he's like, well, I mean, I can see how sometimes some people need it, and trust me, as a guy who's stationed at Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma, I can tell you there's guys sometimes that you get into these situations with just no women around, so I totally understand that. And then you listen to Andrew Huberman, and he gives like this he says, there's no morals involved here, but there's some discussion about how this affects the dopamine structure in your brain. Do you have any opinions about this specifically?
I mean, I encourage guys to do no fap. I think that's like a great pursuit on their part. I think it's less about the masturbation itself. It's more about exercising discipline in some facet of their life. I think that could be masturbation or waking up at a certain time or just meditating or like healthier diet and fitness. So if the one thing they want to start focusing on to like rip the Band-Aid off is not fapping, I think that's amazing, but I don't think is inherently worse or more damaging than like any of the other like vices that people indulge on a day-to-day basis.
So I think the complaint is this. So like, for instance, with video game playing and gambling, there is like some level of skill there in those two vices. But when it comes to alcohol, pornography, and drugs, there's no effort being exerted where you're watching people have a threesome. Does that make sense?
Unfortunately, like the science on this is not like, there's a reason that they've added gambling as a behavioral addiction in the DSM-5, but they've rejected multiple times because the evidence is just not there. Nicole Prause at UCLA does the neuroscience UCLA does really great work on this, and they're not finding it. Like even with TV and obesity, the number of hours that you watch TV is correlated to how obese you are, but they can't find anything with the number of hours you watch, how much you watch. The number one predictor of whether or not you're going to have issues with is something called moral incongruence, which is how you feel your attitudes towards the porn. And if you feel like you're being like those, so when you see things like that, I'm just not seeing. I wouldn't say it's good for you necessarily, but I don't think there's enough evidence to say that moderation is bad for you. So
the moral incongruence, you're talking about like the lieutenant governor of Tennessee who came out with anti-LGBT legislation. Turns out that he's gay. You're talking about that level of moral incongruency?
So what like the studies would be like, hey, like I feel like is morally bad. Like let's say you're religious and you're watching porn.
So you're more likely to get addicted if you find it morally.
Yeah, because addiction is just self-reported. So what they found is that people who like, think about it. Like if you're not supposed to do it and you do it and then you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done it. And then you keep doing it. You're like, I'm addicted. I can't stop. But really you're just normal and you have a sex drive and you're like, and then they'll ask you like, do you feel like this is affecting your life? And they'll be like, yes, oh my God, it's affecting my life. But really it's just because you have an issue with
But you're saying unreliable narrator.
Yeah, I'm saying, not really. I'm saying that if you have an issue with, and if you feel like it is morally, it's against your values, or that it's diminishing you as a man or something, and then you do it, you're going to have more negative outcomes from doing it.
But someone can be addicted to porn, just like they can be addicted to alcohol.
You can be addicted to potato chips.
Well, correct, but you can be addicted to porn, is what I'm saying.
It's not like alcohol, though. That's the difference. It doesn't affect your brain chemistry in the way alcohol does, which is why it's been rejected by the medical community. But it's like shopping. Can you be addicted to shopping? Yes.
So rather than just calling it like a stark psychological disorder, in Evolution of Desire by Dr. Buss, he goes off in this concept where when men looked at images, non-contextual sexualized images of other women, they start to find their partner more and more lacking. And so it could cause a problem of you watching non-contextualized images of women that look like women who are never going to date you, doing things they will never do with you consistently, you putting in no effort in order to see these images, and then you getting a physiological response of dopamine, the highest level of dopamine from something like that, that could be damaging.
It could, yes, but that's different than an addiction.
Right. Oh, so, I'm not, we don't, it doesn't have to be addiction. I'm saying, could you be addicted? I'm not saying everyone's addicted, and I'm not here to morally like chastise pornography. But my point is, like, I can still see how there is an issue. And whenever anybody tells me, hey man, I want to start eating better, whenever I want to start going to the gym, or I want to start watching pornography, I'm never going to tell them no. Hey man, I want to wake up in the morning and get 10 minutes of sunlight in my eyes because Dr. Huberman said so. I'm like, dude, go do it. Cold plunge, go get it. Buy yourself a ring, do it. I'm always for that. But like, I think where I've heard you push back is like, now you're acting as if pornography is the same thing as like stuff with children and like, crack addiction, and you're like, no, this is not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. I would put it in the same, like, you can have an addiction to like shopping. Like, I would put it in that, like, it can impact your life negatively. It can impact your relationships negatively. What they found, for instance, is that when both partners are okay with their partners viewing, then it doesn't seem to impact.
It actually helps.
Yeah, it helps it.
It helps.
So it all depends on you and your individual situation, how you feel about. And if you have any moral issues with it, I know that's not what we're talking about here, but if we're going to be talking about the science is just not there to say that this is addictive in any way.
Yeah, not addictive, but like, so for instance, Dr.
A compulsion.
Huberman talking about dopamine and testosterone increases, but without human contact. And you start to learn, like, through operant conditioning, after a while, you start to get to the point where it's like, I am getting these dopamine releases without touching a woman. And it could change the way you program, you wire your own brain. And the neuroplasticity being more malleable below the age of 25, meaning people for like, I listened to one guy talking to Huberman, he was 11 years old when he got addicted to 11. And like, when you think about the neuroplasticity of somebody who's 11 years old, and I'll be honest with you, I'm just going to be, first time I'll just admit this, I grew up in Texas. You guys know they have more breast implants there than any other place in the country. I haven't dated a woman without a boob job in 20 years. The women I date look like women in porn. And like, I'm to be honest with you, like, growing up looking at Playboy and then later going to the Playboy mansion, I think it affected my dating habits. I absolutely do.
Of course, yeah. And you can have a bunch of anecdotal experience, but there's a reason they haven't, like, because they've done, like, people are like, oh my God, it's caused erectile dysfunction. Then they did huge meta-analysis and they're like, oh no, actually anxiety is the #1 predictor of erectile dysfunction. So the 3 biggest things that make you most likely to be addicted to moral incongruence, anxiety, depression, like, and then actually narcissism. So there's like all these things that they're finding. And yes, I'm not saying that for everybody. If you're already depressed, if you're already socially secluded, then that's different. But I would feel like, just like alcohol, the majority of people are able to use alcohol in a way that, conducive with living a happy, healthy life. And same thing, if you're watching 10 hours a night, I would say no. Yeah. But if you're doing it, every now and then, like you're getting a beer every now and then with your friends, I don't think alcohol is damaging to you.
I had Bilzerian on in here a couple times. He's a good friend of mine. And he was talking about this one issue where it was like, he would get to a point where nothing tasted good to him. Nothing was exciting to him. He had what's called dopamine fatigue. He was realistically understanding that. And he told me, it was like, dude, I'm going to shave my beard and go work at Walmart. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be worth $1 billion, and I'm going to go work at Walmart to like reset my dopamine receptors. And it's like, he got to that point. And I'm not just talking about.
Yeah, like Huberman, when he says like, if you drink coffee before going to the gym, maybe stop it at some point so you can. Yeah, so I agree with all that. But
pre-workout keeps getting harder.
But that's not the way people talk about addiction. People are like, oh my God, it's
agreed.
Like fentanyl, and you.
So I mean,
I don't want to. You should cut into.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to put it. That's what I want to do today, is just kind of put it in perspective. This is from Dopamine Nation, is the book. Pornography is a potent stimulus. It sets a threshold for dopamine release, but then you drop below the threshold afterwards, and that's when you get people, again, not just talking about pornography, other things where you start feeling like, I'll be honest with you, if I ever get to a point where I have a threesome and afterwards I'm like, yeah, that was okay. I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna like, my life sucks now. I want to appreciate the fact that I see a beautiful day or have a terrific cheeseburger. I don't ever want those things to get
exactly.
passe.
I agree with that. So same thing. Like if you're and like he said, you're drinking coffee or you're doing something to increase your dopamine levels, be careful with it. Like take back. Like just do it in moderation so that you don't mess up your dopamine receptors. But I don't think that's just.
Faro, do you have any statement about dopamine and?
Yeah, I guess like I see OnlyFans is so different from porn. Like I agree with you. I think it's overall like net negative. Like I don't see what the advantage is to like going on Pornhub every single day. And I also think the pipeline is a lot more dangerous. Like the average age a boy gets exposed to pornography for the first time is 13. And then by 14, he's already sought out extreme content such as bondage, sadomasochism, rape. And then by college, he's watching like gangbangs, all bondage, stuff like that. But versus on OnlyFans, they have like such strict limits on what you can post that's why it's actually going to mitigate the chances of people going down that pipeline where they're getting desensitized to their partner, because by 14 you're not watching like porn or like knife play or anything with blood or anything like that.